Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to another edition of the Literary Hour. We're glad you've chosen to join us today. Uh, I'm your co host, Jackie Sayegh, and with me, as always, is Professor K. Moses Nagbe, who will be discussing Animal Farm today. Hey, Prof.
Yes, Jackie. Pleasure being here again. Always refreshing.
Yeah, so how are things?
We here, like they say, we're hanging in there. Yeah,
And,
we here.
and thank you for agreeing to Animal Farm. I know I've been begging you, oh, Prof, let's do Animal Farm, let's do
And
Animal Farm. And
never
finally,
grow old. Yeah.
you have consented. But I think that it's a timely novel. I mean, fable. I think that we should continue reading it. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, I've read Animal Farm," and I started to read it again, and it's so timely, so that I think that we will encourage people to read it and to see it as a national narrative wherever they are. So before we begin, I think we should introduce the author and the book. So Animal Farm. So it's a fable written by George Orwell, published in 1945 to highlight the events leading to the Russian Revolution. And I'm reading now. In his essay, Why I Write, in 1946, Orwell said that he wrote Animal Farm. It was the first book in which he tried, with full consciousness of what he was doing, to fuse political purpose and artistic purpose into one whole. Time magazine chose the book as one of the 100 best English language novels. It also featured at number 31 on the Modern Library list of best 20th century novels and number 46 on the BBC's The Big Read poll. It is included in the Great Books of the Western World selection, like Achebe is in Africa. George Orwell, he was the pseudonym of Eric Arthur Blair, who was born in 1903 in India. He died 1950 in England. He was an English novelist, essayist, and critic, famous for his novels Animal Farm in 1984. Of course, we all know 1984 about Big Brother, the anti-utopian novel. So today we will be discussing Animal Farm. And Prof, you guys always say to me that we jump into the book. So maybe for those who haven't read the book, we can set the stage before starting to discuss the themes. What say you? First, my English teacher, as Prof is my English teacher. Here is the it's a satiric allegory. See, Prof, I listen to you.
Yes.
And an allegory is a literary device that can be narrative or visual, a hidden meaning with moral or political significance, and a satire, which is the use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize stupidity or vices. Actually, it was called Animal Farm or Fairy Tale, but it was removed. But it's a fable, a short story, usually with animals as characters, that teaches a lesson. Now, Prof, I have set the stage. You want to tell them about Animal Farm?
Yeah. In talking about Animal Farm, there is a plethora of characters, but the key ones, uh, animals had been living on the farm of Mr. Jones, and it seems that it got to a point where they needed a respite, rest from. I will always go to the uh, Beckerman book, which is The Quiet Before, where when all of a sudden you see a revolution or things burst open and you are saying it happened suddenly. No, people quietly will be, you know, talking in their little corners, what have you, getting to the point of even disrespecting some of the people they used to pay respect to and all that kind of a thing. Then gradually the whole thing explodes. That is part of what one sees on the pages of Animal Farm. The animals had been talking about the cruelties and all that kind of a thing until one evening, one of the old animals on the farm there called Major, he said he had a dream. And so he called all the animals around. You know, there's something about old age. I don't care how young people of a certain generation try as much as possible to disrespect old people. When you see age, when you see all the wrinkles and all that kind of thing, there is something about that, especially when that person is taking himself or herself in a respectable manner. So that was the case of Mayor. So when he said he had a dream, people wanted to know what the dream was. And in talking about this dream, he painted a very bright future of animals being in control of themselves, nobody coming to tell them to go to work or something of that sort. He tells the dream, and in the excitement of it all, after 3 nights, Major dies. He leaves 3 important pigs that will eventually take the dream further. He leaves Napoleon, he leaves Snowball, and he leaves Squealer.
Yeah. But Prof, before we get it, I mean,
Okay,
before
well,
yeah.
okay. Oh, well.
No, 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 no.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Major warned them,
Yeah,
told them of a life that could be,
yes,
but also said to them, you must be prepared
yeah,
for the revolution.
yes. You must be prepared for the revolution. Yes,
Yes.
which was an important caveat. It was an important caveat because there is something about excitement coming out of suffering. Some group that had been suffering for a very long time, when all of a sudden uh, the reprieve comes, if people are not very careful, they are going to throw everything asunder. That is what, if we can bring it to independence in Africa, 1950s, 1960s, and what have you. While there were people who wished to keep a focus, there were many other people who were saying, we are free, we are free. And you can say the same thing about if you've read the Up from Freedom by Booker Teleferro Washington. He talks about when the moment came and they said slaves were freed. That whole night, it was as if Christmas had come or New Year had come. It took a while before some of them began to say, hey, this thing we are getting into, we are not going to get something from the master's table and all that kind of a thing again. Therefore, this is something we are getting into. So to come back to what admonition Major was giving them, hey, I know I've painted a picture that the future is going to be all right, but I warn you. So that's very much important that you added that piece. Yes.
Yeah, but I have the PowerPoint when Major,
Uh-huh.
when he's talking to when he's speaking to them and saying they must prepare. But Major, in his speech, I thought that it would be fitting for us to take some pieces from there
Please.
to show. So here's one,
Mhm.
and I think this one is he's talking about how uh, uh um he's talking about how they suffer,
Yeah.
right? The animals, and he's questioning that. Remember, Prof, what we were I remove it for a second. Remember, you and I last week we spoke about thinking as a hobby,
Yeah.
and we made the connection of grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3 thinking, and we said grade 2 is the agitator,
Yeah.
is the one that says, why is this so?
Yeah. What can be
Why is this so? Grade 3 says, oh, let me just sit here, and if
yeah.
anybody talk to me, I will get angry and I will just insult them. But grade 2, yeah, grade 2 says, why is this so? And it's true that as Goldie says, sometimes they cannot create, they only destroy,
Yeah.
but they shake the waters.
Hmm.
They say, I want to know. So if you look at Major, when he's giving his speech, he doesn't take it from thin air. He's saying to them, look, let me tell you things that you already know, right? So he says to them, this suffering that we're suffering, is it part of the order of nature?
Hmm.
Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile, its climate is good, it is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormously greater number of animals than now inhabit it. But why then do we continue in this miserable condition? Because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. There, comrade, is the answer to all our problems. It is summed up in a single word: man. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever.
Now that is the fallacy of reductionism,
Yeah,
that you can talk about a plethora of problems, and someone says one thing, just one thing alone is going to what? Is going to solve the problem. And
just
that's
move that man.
that's right. Reductionism. Yes.
Yeah,
You know,
he said
that's
if you remove man, and he goes on to say man is the only creature that consumes without producing.
mhm.
He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits.
Hmm.
Yet he is Lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for
Good
himself.
stuff.
Listening to this, I mean, reading this book, this is almost like the declaration of sentiments,
Mhm.
right? They have and they say King George have done this, or the Women's Declaration of Sentiments, right? Man has done this to us. So it's the list of grievances. Yeah, it's the list of grievances that
Mhm.
we're not just talking for talking's sake.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that man has done to us,
Mhm.
and all of our problems will be solved if we remove man. That's what
All of
Major
our
says.
problems will be solved.
Oh, yeah. If we
This is
remove
this
man.
is this is again, this is the argument that even coup makers, this is the argument. If we remove this administration, everything is going to be all right. And once the picture is painted, once the bright picture is painted, the gullibles, and often there are many in society, they are the what? The third grade thinkers. The gullibles who just come into the and eat it all up. Once we remove this person, once we remove this, everything is going to be all right.
But major is not. Major knows, because major says you have to prepare. Major says you have to prepare before the revolution, because there will be a revolution, and he says, I don't know when,
Yeah.
but you must prepare for that revolution, right? Yeah.
And it's a sad thing though, because that is how some of these revolutions often catch people unawares because it is in the future. And not too many people so easily can what? Not too many people have the prescience to be able to know it's going to happen this date or that other date. So that instead of when people are thinking about a long drawn time before this thing happens and it happens almost suddenly, that abruptness, that abruptness often throws things in chaos.
Yeah, yes, that's it. Because Major, he's old and he's lived a long time,
Yes.
and he's saying to them, "Man has done us wrong, but you have to be prepared when the revolution comes." And he says that I do not know when it will come,
Hmm.
right? And Major dies. He dies before the revolution
In three
in three
in
days.
3 days he
Yes.
dies.
And the revolution comes suddenly. It comes when they forget to milk the cows, feed the chickens, do this, right? And the animals rebel. So the
Yeah.
revolution comes, you know, and it even say the chicken keep. I mean, the chicken kept laying eggs, and Napoleon they didn't know what to do, you know. So the suddenness,
Yes. The
and
suddenness.
it came.
Mhm.
If our readers, our listeners are following, they remember the Plato, the allegory of the cave.
Mhm.
When you leave the shadows, suddenly, you know, there is a walkway
Yes.
that you walk to get accustomed to the light.
Light.
And Major says, you must prepare. So anyway, the revolution comes suddenly. They're free.
Jones.
What's his name?
Jones or what?
Mr. Jules, Mr.
Yeah.
Jules of Manor Farm run away.
Yeah.
He runs away,
Yeah.
you know. So everything is hunky dory for the first few
Yeah.
days. Everybody's sleeping. Nobody got to work,
Mhm.
right? Everything's fine, you know. And then you also have so Napoleon,
Mhm.
who is very like an aggressive boar,
Yeah.
right? He comes. He's kind of commanding because it
Yes.
seems that he is the one who is prepared for the
Yeah.
revolution,
Well, somehow.
right? Yeah. And then you have all these other animals who actually represent people like Molly. Molly doesn't care about the revolution. Molly just wants to dress pretty.
Yes.
She like, would there be ribbons? You know, would there be sugar? You know, yeah. So
Sugar.
anyway, the revolution comes, and then what happens now when the revolution comes?
Um. First of all, uh, the turf war begins.
Yeah.
Mind you, now when Major dies, it is like three guys are standing out.
Yes.
I talked about Squealer, who is supposed to be like the engineer or the architect or what have you. I mean, Snowball is that.
Yes.
Squealer is going to be the propagandist.
Yes.
Yes, he is the one who is the master of what a political speech and what have you. Yeah, he is the language twister and all that kind of a thing. It is at the very beginning of the things that Snowball falls in trouble with Napoleon,
Napoleon. Yeah.
and there's a clash of image and all the kind of personality and what have you. And all this time, it looks like Napoleon had been preparing for that. Therefore, at one point, he had taken the puppies from one of the dogs out there,
Yeah.
and
Pincher.
hid them
Yeah.
and began to train them, not knowing he was training them for himself. All
Yeah.
right, to become the security guards. So when he and Snowball fall out, it is at a meeting, and he throws the signal. Napoleon throws the signal, and the dogs run Snowball out of town.
Yeah.
Even the windmill he had been working on, he just left it incomplete, and he's just out of the place there. With all that Napoleon does, it is Quiller in the background who is kind of feeding the people language and nothing more than that.
Yeah. and you can see when old Major was talking at the beginning, and I think the mice or the rats came, right? And the dogs were about to jump on them, and they said they had to decide, are mice our friends? So you saw this consensus building, that let us agree that all of us animals, even if we're enemies before, we are all friends now, because our common enemy is man. Man is our
Our
common
common
enemy,
enemy is man.
right? When Major was telling them about getting ready for the revolution, so when the revolution came after the few days of euphoria, right, to settle down now to the work of what it means to be free and to do
Hmm.
work, right? There were some animals that basically turned to Napoleon, because Napoleon seemed to be in charge.
Yes.
You know, then you had, is it Moses? Moses was
Yeah.
the spy, because Moses had been a friend, a pet for Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Moses was the bird, the crow, the raven. But the interesting thing about Moses is that Moses always talk about sugar land, right? Right? Is
All in
called
the
sugar
dream,
land.
all in the dream world.
Yeah,
Sugar Hill Mountain,
sugar candy mountain.
Sugar Candy Mountain.
Yeah, and he will say to the animals, even if you're suffering now,
Yeah.
you're gonna enjoy on sugar candy mountain. You know, and when reading this, I felt like Moses was the pastor that says, "Oh, you can suffer in this life. When you go to heaven, you will enjoy."
Uh, like
Yeah,
like one bishop once said, they said the streets in heaven are paved with gold, but I want to get my gold while I'm on earth.
while
That's
you were
what.
on earth. Yeah, yeah, and then I kind of like am more attuned to Benjamin. So now we're discussing all the different animals that are on the farm. Benjamin is this old donkey who has seen it all, and Benjamin is not easily taken in.
Mhm.
Like Benjamin said, you have never seen a dead donkey. So Benjamin is the one who looks around. He says nothing, but he looks around. But now let's look at the farm. They've overthrown the man, right?
Yes,
So their life should be perfect now, because man was the source of all their troubles. They start to work, but all of a sudden Napoleon has become the leader.
yeah,
Squealer, as his name, he is the I would say Minister of Information, the
yeah, the
Minister of
propagandist.
Propaganda.
Yes,
Yeah. So he would, when Napoleon would do something and the animals would try to question, he will find the words to say, "Oh, no, 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 it doesn't mean this, it means that."
that,
You know. So the other animals are caught in this web of not knowing what to do, because they were not ready for the revolution. They were not ready, Prof. The revolution came suddenly.
yes,
Yeah. And as they say, the revolution eats its own children.
yes, and that's
Yeah.
how it began to go. Snowball being chased out, and a few others.
So tell me, this Napoleon, what is going through his mind as he's on this farm and the animals are looking up to him? What do you think is going through his mind?
All of it. So you see, that's the almost immediately he began to groom and then strengthen the dictatorial tendencies. Mind you, now at the beginning of the new life, uh, it was said that all of them were supposed to be equal.
Yes.
You have the seven principles.
And I can, so after, what happened was that after they had danced and whatever, they decided that, you know what, we need rules to live by.
Yeah.
So Squealer, right? Squealer, they painted it on the barn. So here are the seven rules.
Mm-hmm. Let them. Yes.
Whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy.
Yes.
Whatever goes upon four legs or has wings is a friend.
Yes.
No animal shall sleep in a bed.
Yes.
No animal shall drink alcohol.
Yes.
No animal shall kill other animals.
Yes.
No animal shall wear clothes.
Uh huh.
All animals
All
are equal.
animals are equal.
Yes. So that's our seven commandments.
Yes.
Okay.
All animals are equal.
Yeah, all animals are equal. But as time goes on,
Hmm.
you see Napoleon
Gradually, yes.
sleeping in bed.
Yes.
You
Drinking
see
whiskey, drinking wine.
drinking wine. You see Napoleon even negotiating trade with the
Yeah.
men, with
Yes.
the man.
Yes.
The man that was the enemy. The
Mhm.
man. Napoleon is negotiating with the man.
Yes.
Yeah. So so
Because
so
on the other side of you had Jones, on the other side was Mr. Frederick.
yeah.
It is later on that Pickleton comes into the picture, and then of course it's the guy in the end that, of course, he has the dinner with and shocked to see what is going on.
And you know the interesting thing is I think Baxter and Clover.
Mhm.
Baxter and Clover, Prof, they can believe anything.
Gullible.
Everything. Anything Squealer tells them, they believe. If Squealer says, "Oh, the sky is red," they believe.
Yes, yes, yes.
Even if they are looking at the sky, they believe everything that Squealer tells them. You know, it's really. I mean,
And,
yeah,
and it's important that someone who is looking at Animal Farm will see the seeds of 1984 being planted.
yes,
You see,
yes,
the seeds of 1984 being planted. This whole idea of political speech,
yes,
where red is seen, and someone tells you that thing you are looking at that you think is red. No, it's not red. It's black. Can you just from red to black all the way? And it is more of a repetition and all that kind of a thing, tongue twisting and what have you, that eventually will make you believe what you ought not to believe. That you believe what is called alternative facts as we know that today.
and that's what Orwell says. Orwell says to see what is in front of your nose
Mhm.
requires a constant struggle.
Yeah.
Because Boxer and Clover, at one point they're working, and their food is being reduced.
Yeah.
They're hungry.
Hmm.
The animals on the farm, they're hungry. And Squealer comes with his chart.
Yeah.
Squealer has these charts. He's like throwing the numbers. He's like, no, it's not. He said, it's not. What did he say? He said, no, 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 no. The food is not being reduced. It's being readjusted. So again, they play on language, on words,
Yes. Yes.
manipulating words that,
Mhm,
oh, no,
mhm.
no, 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 you say the
Euphemisms
food
and
is being
all that.
reduced.
Yes. Mhm.
And the animals, although they can see
Hmm.
that they themselves are hungry, because Squealer comes with all these numbers and these words and he's throwing them around, he can, because remember, Squealer can skip from side to side.
Yes, of course.
And they're believing,
Mhm.
Squealer is the perfect propaganda tool because he can talk, he knows how to throw charts and things. So they're saying, although we are going to sleep hungry, Squealer says we are not hungry. The food is being readjusted, it's not being reduced. So they believe anything. Anything.
And it's very much important that we are emphasizing this point because language, we cannot overemphasize that language. We Others may trivialize the importance of language, but because language appeals to the heart and the mind, it becomes the first order of business, the first tool that someone who wants to disorient people will have to fashion very well, so that once using their language, the individual is capable of capturing the minds and hearts of people. Every other thing is almost like what? A fait accompli.
Yeah, and in fact, one point when Squealer is showing them all these numbers and things, they're thinking, look, we would rather have less numbers and more and more food. It what is the guy name? I think it's some British guy, right? He said there are three kinds of lies, damn lies, and statistics. And that's Squealer. Squealer knows how to
Yeah.
how to do this thing,
Yeah.
so gradually you see that Napoleon is actually becoming like the man, you know but the reason, Prof, that Napoleon can be like that is because of the sycophants around him. People are singing songs to Napoleon.
Yes.
People are bowing to him.
Yes.
Napoleon doesn't
All of
work
a sudden,
anymore.
he rises to a point of no competitor anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what he gets.
And he keeps having children. I mean, having piglets and
Yes.
sending them to school. He built a school for them.
Yes.
Yeah. So and then he had this.
Fortify his own
Yeah.
his survival type of thing now.
And the more he does that, the more Squealer tries to tell people, oh, this doesn't happen. But I think for me, one of the saddest one was Boxer.
Yeah, Baxter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Boxer, this old donkey,
Mm-hmm.
who just every time people say to him, but why do people they may say I will just work?
Work.
Boxer just working.
Commitment.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because Boxer says, when I drop one day, I will go to my retirement home. Because Squealer and the others have lied to him. They'll say that just work.
Hmm.
Keep working. Because when you finish, when you work every time, you will go to this retirement home. And Boxer works, and then he gets sick. I guess his
Yeah.
body
Breaks down.
was
Yeah.
done.
Mhm.
And Napoleon sends him to be killed, Prof.
Yes. Sensing that way. Yeah.
But lies to the animals and say, oh, he going to the retirement home.
Mm-hmm. That's Squealer's role now.
Yeah, but the thing is that when the van comes for Boxer to take Boxer away, and the other animal saw the on the van that it was going to have him killed, right? It was a glue factory. Squealer was able to tell the people, no, 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 no. You see, the man only bought the van from the guy. And Baxter enjoying himself now, Baxter in retirement home. And these animals, despite the contrary, they believed Squealer. What is
Lang-
it, Prof, that
Language.
makes people so blind, like, oh, well, say you cannot see what is in front of your nose?
The first thing, uh, one of the first things that you find the propagandist does is to appeal to the ego,
Yes,
of those with whom he is communicating or the system is communicating. Once that is done, in other words, that look, this thing you're talking about, we are seeking your interest. We will never ever, if anything like that happen, let us die.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I can, I cannot look at you knowing that you are part of me. You think
yes.
I will do this to you, I will do that. I can never do that to you. I respect the sanctity of your life and what have you. When all those things are said, I mean, look at you hear between the men will never do anything terrible to us and what have you. And once that bind is set in place, then definitely so many ugly things can happen.
Yeah, and that's what Napoleon keeps saying to them, I am one of you, you
Ah,
know, and
we've seen
because
it.
that
I'm one of you.
one of you. Yeah, he said, I'm one of you. Yeah,
Hmm.
he said, I'm one of you. In fact, Napoleon loved praise so much that even Pinkerton was praising him.
Yeah.
But what is it? But the three guard dogs, right? The three guard dogs of Pincher,
Yeah.
Bluebell, and
Yeah.
I forgot the other one,
Yeah.
right? So he trains these dogs to attack his enemies, right? And then he has all these children, I think 31. Why do I keep saying children? Piglets. And he's educating them, right? And in the meantime, the animals keep working, right? They keep working, right? Molly runs away. Molly wants to go look for ribbons for her hair and things like that because Molly was not Molly was not committed to the revolution. The question Molly asked at the beginning was, will we still have sugar? Will I still have ribbons for my hair? So Molly was not interested in
Superficial
the
things.
revolution.
That again, that is part of what sometimes destroys
Yes.
what may have been meant for or
Yes.
something. Well, when you have people, when you have more people that are superficial in their thinking
Yes.
and what they kind of take as uh, life-giving things, then definitely there is a problem. And to get them out of that mindset becomes an even terrible problem, you know. And that is all the reason why those who are the propagandists will try as much as possible to create a whole bastion of uh, trivial thinkers. You know, those who are gullible, you've got to make the population a little greater than any other, so that once they are on your side, the people can lie to us. Once they have that statement that people can't lie to us, that people are part of us, then there is something terrible that is going to happen to the society. And that is what we see in the case of uh, uh, Squealer in cahoots with Napoleon and the rest of those people who want to have control over the farm.
Yeah, and because, again, because they saw men as the enemy,
Mm,
right? And now Napoleon is working with men,
yeah,
right? But Napoleon has I mean, of course, Squealer, the how do you call it? The the commander, not the commander in chief, the minister of information
yes, minister of
and
information.
propaganda. He's there, you know. But one of the things that old Major warned them before he died, right? Old Major said to them, "I have little more to say. I merely repeat, remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways.
Hmm. Remember that.
Whatever goes up upon two legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon four legs or have wings is a friend. And remember also that in fighting against man, we must not come to resemble him.
Aye.
Even when you have conquered him, do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house or sleep in a bed or wear
Hmm.
clothes or drink
Hmm.
alcohol or
Hmm.
smoke tobacco or touch money or
Hmm.
engage in trade.
Hmm.
All the habits of man are evil.
Hmm.
And above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind,
Hmm.
weak or strong, clever or simple. We're all brothers. No animal must ever kill any other animal. All animals are equal.
And and here,
Always, he said,
the,
what he said,
okay,
in fighting against man, we must not come to do what? Resemble him.
and what you see, especially the list of things that they should not do, is almost like presenting them the apple of what, of right and wrong.
Yes,
Eat from the other trees, eat from the other trees, but this other tree, yet out of curiosity, out of curiosity. That is the tree of what? The knowledge of right and wrong
of right
that
and
they are
wrong.
running
Yes.
to what? To kind of take upon themselves. And that is what Napoleon is doing right out there.
And although Animal Farm is about the Russian Revolution, it could pertain to any country.
Of course,
You know,
that is what makes the book a classic. That
a
is what
classic. Yeah,
makes the
yeah.
book.
Because you can read a book today
Mhm.
and say, but what's happening here? You
Yes,
know, you have sycophants who prop up any government.
yes.
You have people who would say yes when they're supposed to say no.
Oh,
You have people who are not committed to anything, like Molly, who
yes,
says, I'm only here for what I can get.
yes.
And if I can't get it here, I'm going somewhere
Somewhere.
else. You know, you have people who say, yes, you're suffering and I'm not, like Napoleon, but I'm one of you.
How do you do that? How do you do that? And yet there are people who are there clapping for that person.
Yes,
We've seen
yes.
that
And
times.
not only that, then they started to make songs for Napoleon. They
Ah,
started to prop him up. You know,
ah.
Napoleon would be on straw with his legs crossed. They
Hmm.
would sing songs to him. They would flatter him, and all through all this thing, Benjamin is just looking at them. You know, because Benjamin since Baxter died, Benjamin became very quiet,
Yes, with room.
but Benjamin would just look at them. He would just look at them, you know. And then, of course, they are terrorized because of the dogs,
Hmm.
right? Because
Yes.
Napoleon has his dogs, so there's nothing really they can do. Napoleon now starts handling money. He starts he starts working with the man.
Yes.
The man also starts to praise Napoleon,
Yes.
that Napoleon is this, I guess, this larger than life.
Life.
Yes, he said, because he said to Napoleon, "Look, you have even increased the amount of produce on on a farm,
Hmm.
but but you haven't spent a lot of money." Yes, because Napoleon, the animals were working,
Yes.
and Napoleon uh, 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 Napoleon was making them work harder, right? So it's an allegory, yes, of almost every country. The revolution came. The people who had been agitating for revolution were unprepared.
Yes.
So because they were unprepared, the one person
Yes.
who they felt, oh, he's prepared
Yes.
more than we are, became the leader,
Yes.
and
And exploited them.
and not only exploited, but yeah, oppressed them.
Yeah.
And every time they try to say, he said, but I'm one of you.
Yeah.
I'm one of you. And then we have people who are saying, look, 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 even if you're suffering, don't worry, there's Sugar Candy
Tomorrow.
Mountain.
That's tomorrow.
heaven,
That's
heaven is there, you will
tomorrow.
enjoy, you know. And then when they say, but we are going to bed hungry,
Hmm.
you have Squealer or the Minister of Information or
Yeah.
whoever to come and say, no, 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 you see, you think the food is being reduced. The food is not being reduced.
Hmm.
You know, the food is not being reduced. What's happening is there's readjustment, you know, there's readjustment. There's no reduction, there's readjustment. So there's this play on language. And
Play
then
on
lo and
language.
behold, not only is this play on language, Napoleon becomes a president, right? And Animal Farm becomes a republic.
Yes.
So, Prof, what's going on?
What is the transformation for the sake of personal aggrandizement? That's what it is.
Yes.
And that is what happened. Again, when things happen in America here, and there were people celebrating democracy at work, and I'm saying it's human character at work, because there were some out there who even to this day wish, in fact, America could blow into flames. It had to take human character, because some of these people, you didn't have guns to their heads when they said, I am not going to do this, or I'm going to do the other one, or what have you. So I keep coming back to, I know it is difficult to create a value system so perfect, but those who are willing to sacrifice to follow the ethos of life, they are the people who eventually are going to be the saviors of a society. That is why, when we were talking about the sorry thing, and people were talking about structure versus institution or what have you, when it comes to institution, what makes an institution viable is the people. Without people who have substance, without people who have integrity, so many ugly things can happen, so that whatever structure you build and what have you may not come to anything unless you have institutions in which people of substance are keeping things together. And that is what we're talking about in the case of Animal Farm, where Napoleon becomes law to himself. Unfortunately, there aren't people around to ensure that the ethos of the work uh, system that they could have set up to bring in more things for the equal guidance of everybody became something that what Napoleon took control of, and again exploited and manipulated and did all kinds of things to suffering the masses that he had come to keep together.
And Prof, even within this, there's something very insidious going on. Erasure of memory, of history. Because
Yes.
as time goes on on a farm, Bluebell dies. Bluebell,
Yeah.
Muriel dies, Pincher dies.
Yeah.
And
All
so
die
you have
out.
a new group of animals coming up who never remember the old days.
Oh.
And they thought every time that it was only work. But Baxter was there. I'm not Baxter, Benjamin. And Benjamin would tell them of the old days. And I thought this quote was very appropriate here.
Yeah.
Benjamin said, um, no, no, this is not it. Sorry. Yeah. As for the others, their life, so far as they knew, was as it had always been. They were generally hungry. They slept on straw. They drank from the pool. They labored in the fields. In winter, they were troubled by the cold, and in summer by the flies. Sometimes the older ones among them racked their dim memories and tried to determine whether in the early days of the rebellion, when Jones's expulsion was still recent, things had been better or worse than now. They could not remember. There was nothing with which they could compare their present lives. They had nothing to go upon except Squealer's list of figures,
Uh-huh.
which invariably demonstrated that everything was getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
The animals found the problems insoluble. In any case, they had little time for speculating on such things now. Only old Benjamin professed to remember every detail of his long life and to know that things never had been, nor ever could be much better or much worse. Hunger, hardship, and disappointment being, so he said, the unalterable law of life. And yet the animals never gave up hope.
Now, this is the
Erasure,
celebration of history.
erasure of
This is,
memory.
yes, but this is the celebration of history. You see,
Yes,
if we are not cognizant of the importance of history, we it's almost going to be like you are uh, inventing the wheel every generation.
yes,
But if the structures of history are in place, if the tenets of history are in place, it's going to be a different thing where people who may want to think themselves of themselves as propagandists, they will have to think twice before they spill nonsense on what on the public floor, as you will say, for one of better phrasing. So history in all these things as we're talking about, history becomes very much important. It is within history that you can think about collective memory.
yes,
So
yes,
all those, and that is why even in the African setting, when we talk about griots, if
yes.
you don't have people who tell the story from generation to generation, there will be quack people who come in and want to what? Want to a kind of reinvent the wheel and keep society at a terrible stagnation, and we ought not to accept that to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I, we've sat here, we've talked about the glory days of the University of Liberia. That motto, light in darkness, didn't just materialize out of air.
Hmm.
Liberia, University of Liberia was the model, the beacon of higher learning in Africa,
Yeah,
not just West Africa, in Africa.
yeah,
Now if you didn't know that and you see the University of Liberia, you would think it has always been like that.
yeah.
you know like I wrote the other day. I said, why would they build um a park at the airfield on the ground that the women used to sit down, those mass action women of peace, to pray for peace in our country? That place should be sacred ground. There should be a monument there to our women, the strength of our women. Build the park somewhere else. But then again, that's erasure.
Leisure.
Because as we die off and the new people come, there will be one old person like Benjamin who will say, there used to be
So
some women over
used
there.
to be,
You see?
used to
So
be.
so so as we plan the country to move ahead, there must be these hallmarks, these institutional collective memory sites that we can say this thing happened here.
And
And all of those things, they need to be discussed
yes,
even as the country is moving forward. History is also important for development.
and the thing about it is that the, setting them up should not be a one-shot deal. In other words, there's got to be people, there's got to be a team, there's got to be that institution that will continue to ring the bell. There's got to be what one will call the the tintinnabulation of what it means to know your history, to know where you came from and where you are going. If that is not there, it becomes a problem for every other person to make progress. And that is the sad thing if people lose sight of that particular process of information from one generation to the other.
Yeah, really, it creates a bulwark, against ideology that is not compatible with your society, and coming back to Animal Farm. So when Squealer decides to teach them a new song, right? He wants to teach them a new song to sing to Napoleon. Now, the song that they used to sing during the revolution was Beast of England.
Yeah, yeah, beast of
Yeah.
England.
Perhaps you know that song, Beast of England, Beast of Ireland,
Beast
Beast
of
of every
England.
land and clan. Yeah. So now Squealer wants a new song. Squealer wants none of that. Yeah, 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 comrade, comrade. No, no, no. In fact, Napoleon said they shouldn't be using that word, comrade. That word was gone. So he
Okay.
wanted to teach them. He wanted to teach them a new song. So when Clover and the others they come down to Squealer, they almost die because my man Squealer's walking now on two legs. And Prof, let's go back. Let's
Incredible.
go back to our whatever goes upon two legs is what? An enemy, right? And then Clover comes down to learn the song, and what does Clover see? She sees Squealer walking on two legs like a man, right? Before then, Napoleon had gotten drunk when old Major had said they shouldn't do
Yeah.
anything. They should not resemble man. They should not do anything that man does, right? Napoleon had gotten drunk,
Hmm.
and all of these things. So now the revolution is no more. The revolution has been pushed aside.
Dismantle. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
it has
been
been dismantled. Because first of all, they were not prepared. The revolution came suddenly. They were not. They didn't have the skills for the revolution. The person that they thought had the skills began to oppress them. During the oppression, Squealer was there with his chat, telling them, "Oh no, no, no! You
numbers
see,
and
you
everything.
you're not going to bear hungry. That just readjustment. We're not reducing the food. We're just readjusting. And all and when you look at the animals, the multiplicity of animals, they symbolize every one of us. You have Squealer, the one who can lie. You have
The
Napoleon who has
boss.
power. You have the dogs who are the
Hmm.
henchmen.
Mm-hmm.
You have Molly who didn't care for the revolution.
Yes.
You had Snowball
Hmm.
who they eventually chased away. You had old Boxer who said,
Hmm.
"I would just work. Me, I would just work. One day everything will be all right." He died.
Everything will be
You
all right.
have Benjamin
Hmm.
who just looked and looked and looked on, and he
Just
just
shake
shook
his
his
head.
head. You have Moses, who
Hmm.
was the spy for Mr. Jones, who just used to lie and say, "Look, my people, you're suffer here. Because up there, you will enjoy in the sugarcane mountain." Not
Hmm.
knowing, I say he's the pastor. But after all of these, Prof, after all of these now, right?
Hmm.
You go look, and what happened? The people start changing the law.
Yeah. One by one, the seven start disappearing.
Four legs good, two legs
Let's go.
better. No animal shall sleep in a bed
with
with
sheep.
sheets.
You can sleep in bed.
Yeah. No animal shall drink alcohol to excess. No animal shall kill any other animal without cause.
Cause, hmm,
All animals are
animals,
equal.
but some are more equal than others. In fact,
Correct.
if you one looks at the critiques that they've done on the book, that last one is the most quotable and the most quoted. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than
Than
others.
others. Yeah. The people started adding, yeah, 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 no
Yeah,
animal shall sleep in a bed with
yeah.
sheets.
Cheese. Yes, yes, yes.
And
Hmm.
the animal, no animal shall drink alcohol to excess. That was
Hmm.
because Napoleon got drunk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
have to
Napoleon got drunk.
make adjustment. The one of the tension points of Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad came in when there was this sex scandal, and all of a sudden, in house, the word was that uh, the 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 justification for all that was coming up. Well, David was king, but he had his little on the side, and other. Cause Solomon was this. He was. So what you see happening is that when things get into a bind, that clear boastful justification is not there. There will have to be subtle ways in which the followers have to be convinced. In fact, that's one of the things that happened within the context of the Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad thing. That kind of I know there were other things that caused, but when it got to the Elijah Muhammad and this women thing, Malcolm X started really getting disappointed and what have you. So here we get to Muhammad thing. I mean not Muhammad. We get to Napoleon thing, and the big guys around him, knowing that he's already defiled the principles of the revolution, they had to find a way of adjusting. They had to find a way of adjusting so that people do not almost immediately frown on the Napoleon character. People had to kind of accept him with some level of you know hatred, but yet accept him as he is at the time.
And I mean the end of the book, when the animals peer through the window,
And
right?
Pinkerton said,
Napoleon and others, they are playing cards with the human being, with the human, with man.
yeah,
And they said they looked from one to the other, from one to the other, and they couldn't tell the
they
difference.
couldn't let they
You
couldn't tell
know,
the difference.
but it comes back, Prof, to this thing about what we always say on the show: know yourself.
Know the truth.
And yes, these are animals, but this is just a fable.
That's a
But this
fact.
can be, I mean, every animal that's in that book
Yeah,
has
represents.
is representative
Yeah.
in a human world. And so like we say, when you say know yourself, we say, what is this red line that you will not cross? You know? And some people keep moving that red line.
Hmm.
They will say, oh, I wouldn't do this. Oh, I wouldn't do this. So the red line keeps shifting. And when it keeps shifting, you really don't know
Hmm.
who you are as a person. I think to say, trust thyself, right?
Yeah, it's
Every
a
every
separate thing.
heart vibrates to that iron string.
Yeah.
He didn't say paper string, he said iron string. you know but one of the things I'm interested in with this research I'm doing, Prof, is resiliency. What is it that would make one country come out of a crisis stronger and another country comes out of the crisis weaker? Is there something in the culture before that when you come out of crisis, you can draw on that and say, oh, look, now we can try and do something else. So I think that I think that we just need to trust ourselves.
The
Yeah.
knowledge cannot come by itself. There have to be a lot of Benjamins.
Yes, there have to be a lot of
There
Benjamin.
have to be people who, uh, even if nobody appoints them, they, by virtue of the consciousness of keeping society, they have to thrust themselves forward, making sure that they become the custodian of what things met and what they should mean now.
Yeah.
But if you leave those things to chance, you are not doing yourself any good. Society is not doing itself that good. There has to be an intentional type of going out to get those things and collate them. There's got to be a compendium of the value system that is going to save society. But if we
Yeah.
leave it to chance and we think that it is something to play with, it will come to bite us sometime in the future. And we've
Yeah.
got to really guard
That's
against
true.
that.
That's true. And I say it's just baby steps. We can do things like volunteering. We can do things like having discussions, like to talk. Phil says, America's strength is in the small groups, the
Yeah.
small volunteer groups. That's America's strength. So we can find things like that. But let's look at some of the comments before we close. Stanley Sayon say he's watching. Thank you, Stanley, for joining us. As Mugi Kane said, good discussion tonight. Thank you. I hope you guys can join. Midfield Deco says great. Says Francis, I'm so sorry I got the link late. Why are we not connecting the dots of our living reality? Especially in our country and on our continent, this is another version of Atlas Shrugged. And the ideas are always the same and are always an idealistic version of reality. We are who we are. Says Francis, this is an open invitation to you. We're going to read Atlas Shrugged. Please come on our show and discuss it with us. This is an open invitation. We will wait for you, and we would like to discuss it with you because you're always talking about this book. So please let us know when you will be available. We'll read the book and we want to discuss it with you. Hawa says one of my two favorite teachers. Oh, Hawa,
Oh,
thank you so much.
our,
George Lobo says my favorite book. Yes,
God,
George.
no.
That's
I
George.
haven't seen that guy for a long while. Where you been, my man?
Flomo says great information. This is what is happening in Liberia. Joy says great liberation, says Jackie. And Flomo says great information. Animal Farm is taking place in Liberia. It takes
Yeah,
place almost everywhere. I would say you guys read this book
mhm,
again, it's and see how what's his name? How Napoleon Napoleon changed, but he didn't just change overnight. He
yeah,
was trapped along
yeah,
by other people. So just read Animal Farm, look at the way the seven commandments changed.
yeah.
Not all
Gradually.
animals are equal to some
Mhm,
animals are more equal than others
mhm,
and things like that.
yeah.
And yeah. And so we have our light that is almost time to wrap up. So we enjoyed the discussion. I think we could continue the discussion, but we have to go. But we will be here again next week. I think in another week and a half or 2 weeks, we will be having Liberty Brothers here by Susan Lindsay. She will be on, and then I think a week after that will be Dr. Elwood Dunn. So join us. We're here. Join the discussion. If you have a book you want us to discuss, bring it on. And like I said to Sis Francis, we'll be waiting for Sis Francis. Let her give us a date so we can read Atlas Shrug. Yeah. And so, Prof, last words. Oh no, not last words, but you know what I mean. Final comments.
That's the last one. No, it's always a beautiful experience, a refreshing experience to simply sit here and chat.
Yeah.
Uh, I hope the chatting often gets somewhere. Even if one or two individuals can absorb what's being talked about, something that is not coming from ourselves and only ourselves, but we are reflecting on things written so many years ago. That is first the beauty of language. That is the beauty of literature. That is the beauty of writing. That is the beauty of thinking. We have to be in the business of thinking. We have to be in the business of reflection. It is from the reflection that some ideas hopefully will come out to be able, if that doesn't redeem the whole of Liberia, hopefully it will redeem pockets, and the redemption of those pockets will be carried through to some other things that are meaningful. So we are glad that there are people who are always sitting with us. It's like our own attire shop, except that
Yes.
it's not there. But please, all of you who continue to throw in ideas, contribute to what we are doing, please continue to keep on with that. Yeah, corruption.
Let's say a shout out to Gebe Koluba, who is in Afghanistan.
Oh wow! What? Hey, my
Yeah.
man, how you doing?
Be safe. We pray for you to be
How you
safe
doing?
over there. Yeah.
Glad to hear what you're talking about there.
Yeah. So we want to say thank you again. Sometimes when we're discussing, there's a method to our madness. This book, like we say, you can look at it and see thinking as a hobby,
Yeah.
right? Thinking as a hobby, you will be able to say, okay, so some of them had grade 3 thinking, some of them had grade 2 thinking,
Yes.
and some of them had grade 1 thinking.
Uh-huh.
And then again, also we talk about the myth of the cave, Plato's cave. So there are some people who are still shackled to the
Yes.
wall, and there are others who are making their way out of the cave. So
Yeah.
so wherever you are on this spectrum, we say that we are all Liberians, and we will endeavor not to make our country like Manor Farm.
Yeah.
Before it became Animal Farm, it was called Manor Farm and then Animal Farm. We will work together for the upliftment of our country, and as we say good night, we'll say we are all Liberians,
Yes.
and that is that one red line. We are all Liberians, and
Yes.
let's continue to uplift our country. Good night and be safe.
Yes.
Prof, what are you doing today?
Well, just sitting around. Just sitting around. That's America.
We are Labira. Labira is our home. Labira people. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá everyone. Labira o. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá everyone. Labira mi Labira. Oh, Labira o. Give irọ́.